I just had like a whole lot of cat hair in my mouth.
Nice. Hey everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back to
The Drunken Library.
That was like really loud.
I'm real drunk.
Anyway, so today we are continuing our little kind of mini series situation wherein we talk about the Wayfarer's books by Becky Chambers. And so today we are talking about book 2, A Closed and Common Orbit, which is my fave in the series. I mean, I haven't read book 4 yet, so I guess I can't really say that, but like, I love it a lot. It's going to be hard to top this one.
That's fair. And Sue made a post about it, and she said that book 4 was very similar to book 1.
Okay, I can get behind that.
I was like, all right, yeah.
Because book 1's my second fave, so.
Yeah. I haven't read book 3 or 4 yet, so yeah.
Sir!
My cats are insane.
You're getting a little too excited about Becky Chambers, which, like, fair, but...
Yeah. So far, book 2 is also my favorite. I feel like book 1 was really good for, like, fun, lighthearted, kind of serious romp through space.
Yeah. But, like, book 2 gives you some feels.
Oh, yes.
It hits you right in the gut, like...
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially if you read it at, like, exactly the right time. Like, the first time I read this book, I was, like, already kind of an emotional wreck, and then it was just, like, really just right in the feels.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so the nice thing about this series is this one kind of directly follows the first one, but not really.
Yeah.
Like, it's different characters. So I always refer to these as, like, it's a series, but it's really more of a companion series. Like, you could read them in any order.
I definitely see that. And for the record, for what it's worth, as a person who's new to the series and reading all of them for the first time, I do appreciate the references to stuff happening in the first book for having read the first book first.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think you could pick up any of them and read them as, like, standalones, because they are written as standalone books, but they all take place in the same universe on roughly the same timeline.
Yeah.
Like, books 2 and 3 both take place right after the events of book 1.
Okay, I'm so interested in what's going to happen in book 3.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's, again, a totally different set of characters.
Mm-hmm.
And it explores a different part of
the universe. Yeah. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm certainly intrigued.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I guess what this one is about is it follows a character from, like a kind of main character from book 1 on, like, the next leg of her journey through life.
Yeah. And existence.
I like that I'm acting like we're trying to not spoil things. Like, we spoil everything on this channel.
In case you didn't know, we spoil everything on this channel.
Also, this book came out, like, a lot of years ago, so...
Yeah, if you are into sci-fi and you haven't read it yet, then sorry not sorry, we're about to spoil it for you a little bit.
True.
But on the bright side... Also,
we will have already released a video about book 1.
Yeah.
So, like, you can go watch that.
Yeah.
And then watch this if you are worried about the whole spoilers situation.
True. Also, like, just because we're going to spoil some stuff that happens in the book doesn't mean that the book is not worth reading.
I have now read this book literally 5 times. And
it was spoiled for you every time after the first one.
Every time after the first one. And it's still worth it every time.
Yeah.
There's still something new to think about. Because, like, some of the stuff I was talking to you about this time, like, the like, one person was, like, a mind, like, created to just be a brain and was trying to cope with, like, being in a body, and the other person was created to just be a body and had to cope with, like, thinking for herself for the first time, and how those were, like, they had parallel stories, but they were kind of, like, inverse. Like, I had not really actually put those thoughts into words
until this fifth
time reading it, but it still, like, it means something different to you each time, which is kind of dope.
Honestly, that's what a good book does for me personally, is, like, if you can read it multiple times and enjoy it every time and get something new from it each time, that's what makes it a good book. I mean, listen, there's books that I've read where I'm like, this is an amazing story and I love it.
And it's just a good time.
Yeah. But like, either I haven't read it enough times to claim it's a favorite, or you know, or it doesn't bring anything new to the table. Are the two main things for me personally. So like, my favorite book I claim as my favorite book, even though other books might technically be more of a favorite. But I'm like, out of the number of times that I've read it, over the amount of time that I've read it, and that I'm always getting something new from it, that's why it's my favorite.
Yeah,
which
this
is
one,
Kindred.
Well, the nice thing is, like, so, like, this book specifically, because, you know, I'm picky about being like, this is a favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a fucking asshole about it.
Only a little.
Right. This book is absolutely in my top 5. It might be in my top 3.
Damn.
And, like, I
After
love this...
Outsiders and Wuthering Heights?
Flowers for Algernon.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah. But, it's just... And I love the whole series, but this book, like, if I only had to read one, I would read this one. But yeah, so I guess we could go into, like, what actually happens, right? That would be...
I mean, we could.
We could do... in theory.
Do people expect, like, legitimate
anything
reviews?
cohesive ever out of us ever? And I feel like a lot of ours are just like plot summary with commentary.
Listen, we call a lot of people bitches because honestly, there's always some kind of bitch.
There's not a lot of bitches in this one though.
There really isn't. Well,
like, one of them's like a bitch for a little while. Well, and yeah, some of the characters in like the past timeline are kind of bitches.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So
yeah, so this book it's like a dual timeline.
Oh.
Which is Amber's shit.
You know I love a good dual timeline.
Which is part of why I thought you'd like this one, but I wasn't sure if this one would be your fave, or honestly, you will probably really like book 3.
Really?
I still think this one will be your fave.
Okay.
But I do think you will really like book 3.
Okay.
I could not tell you why.
It's just the vibe you're getting.
Yes. Even the first time I read it, I was like, Amber would like this one.
Listen, sometimes you get a vibe from a book and you just know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious now.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be great. But yeah, so it's a dual timeline. The first timeline takes place 20 years prior to the second one.
Yep.
And the second timeline takes place right after the events of book 1.
Yes. And it's interesting. Sorry,
Sir.
The camera just shook. Vincent.
The camera moves like the whole time, so like we're fine. Sir.
He's going to jump right back.
He sure is.
Little butthole.
He sure is.
Lucky he's cute, though.
He sure is. It's appropriate every time. Sir, you done?
Rob's
He's not done.
No.
We're just gonna keep talking.
All right. So yeah.
So the second timeline is where we start the story, like the more recent timeline,
because it's sort of kind of a continuation from the first book.
Right, but you don't follow the same group of characters. You follow
a character you met for the first time in book 1.
Right, but at the very end, because like if you read book 1, and again we're just gonna spoil some shit because like you literally can't talk about it without doing that.
Yeah.
But if you read book 1, the character of Lovelace, aka Lovey, throughout that book, was very much a real character, but she was the ship's AI.
Yeah.
And at the end of book 1, an incident occurs, which causes her system to like freak the fuck out.
All the way the fuck out.
And they have to do a hard restart.
Yeah.
And the risk when they do a hard restart is that she may come back as herself, or she may come back, see all of her memory files, delete them, and be essentially a reboot of the original install.
Right.
Which is what happens.
Yes. Because they take that risk, and it doesn't go the way that they were hoping. And so...
And because that original install, after all of the time installed in the ship, getting to know the crew, had formed some very personal relationships.
Very personal relationships.
It would have been very emotional for the crew to still have this new install around.
Yeah. With the same voice, with the same instincts, I guess.
Right, but without remembering any of them.
Yeah.
And so, another character from book 1, who we only met for like a scene.
Yeah, but it was a good scene.
Yeah. Well, 2 scenes, I guess, because she came back at the end. But Pepper who is like a tech, who she works really well with tech. She comes to help them originally try to fix the software issue.
Yeah.
When they don't, she essentially invites the new install of Lovelace to come join her, live with her and her partner, and create a new life for herself, like in a body kit, which is illegal.
So illegal.
In the universe that we're in.
Yeah. And it's like extra dramatic because the body kit was only around because one of the characters who we met, who was a worker on the Wayfarer, the ship in the first book, fell in love with the AI. With the AI
Lovey, and where they were going to put her in a body kit so they could physically be together.
Yeah.
So he bought the body kit, but then they changed their minds because it was too much of a risk.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the first things you see in book 2, it's like you know how like there'll be like quotes at the beginning of chapters in a lot of books?
Yeah.
This one they quote like the law, which is basically like if they discover an AI in a body kit, they will shut down the body kit without bothering to uninstall or transfer the software to a new program.
Oof.
And the person who is caught with the body kit, like who is considered like in charge of it, will like be arrested.
Yeah. And don't they spend like 10 years in jail or prison?
Yeah, it's a long time. I don't remember exactly what it is.
It's a lot longer than
so
0.
Pepper is taking a risk by inviting Lovelace to come with her.
Yeah.
And Lovelace is taking a risk by going into a body kit, all to protect people's emotions that she doesn't even actually know.
Yeah. She just like has empathy right away because she sees these people on the ship and she's like, wow, they're all hurting and they're mourning the version of myself that I got rid of.
Well, and it automatically presents one of her biggest internal conflicts, which is that she was created to be accommodating, to consider everybody else's needs and to never think about herself. She exists as a tool for other people. Yep. So when she sees other people are in pain, her instinct is to help them, and her way of helping them was to leave, even though it was great personal risk for her.
Right, because she, like, also part of her programming is that she was supposed to be an AI within a ship.
Right.
She was supposed to have access to view every room, every corner, all the time.
Yeah, she was essentially,
and all of a sudden,
like, you know
limited.
How sometimes if you're the sort of person who's, like, not great in open spaces...
That's her.
That's her, but, like, on a very extreme level. Like, you know how some people like having walls? She is supposed to be the walls.
Yeah. So, like, for her to be in a body kit is so limiting for her.
Not being able to see behind her, not having access to, like, it's called the linkings in here, but essentially the internet.
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
To be able to access all information at a moment's notice. She has a very limited memory bank, so she can't store as much as she wants.
Literally anything and everything all at the same time.
And so she goes through a lot of trouble where she's like, I don't want to delete files because if I delete the file, I will forget that I ever knew it existed. So there's a lot of that. So her struggle is basically learning how to exist as an individual while at high risk of being caught.
Yeah.
Trying to come to terms with her mind connecting with her body. Coming to accept the body as her body and not just a vessel.
Yeah. Which is it's very clear throughout the book that that's
an issue for
struggle,
her.
Yeah.
And also with her, it's just trying to be an individual.
Yeah.
That's her biggest thing.
And then, simultaneously, she's living with Pepper and Blue. And Pepper, we're getting her timeline.
Yeah, it's a dual timeline. So the first timeline is, like I said, 20 years prior.
Yep.
And this is Pepper's story, but when Pepper was originally born, her name was Jane.
Yeah.
Jane 23.
Yeah. And
she was like an altered human.
Basically bred to be a slave.
Yeah, she was bred to do manual labor in a factory for this group of people called the Enhanced. And they just have all of these girls bred in factories. They have no hair. They were bred for a specific purpose. She exists to, essentially, she does manual labor, recycles tech that has been junked. until she reaches, like, the age of 12, and then after the age of 12, the girls just disappear and no one knows what happens to them.
I never caught that part.
Yeah, she was like, I don't know what happened to the Claires when they turned 12.
Oh, shit.
And then remember, she found that fucking body.
Well, I knew that part.
Mm-hmm. So, once they age out, basically, they just disappear.
Is it like they're only using their youthful mind and imagination?
Well, and you would figure also, once they start to reach, like, the age of what would normally be, like, puberty, they also probably start to question what the fuck is going on a little bit more.
Okay, that's fair.
That's my theory. I never really discuss it, but...
That's real fucked up, and I never caught that part.
I have read it 5 times.
Yeah. I'm not, like, sad. I'm, like, a little disappointed in myself, but I'm not, like, oh, shit, how could I not notice?
Yeah.
Like,
and
sometimes you just miss stuff.
Yeah, and each year, there's a new group of girls, and that group of girls all have the same name and a number. Yeah. So they have, like, the Marys, the Claires, the Sarahs, the Janes.
Yeah.
And,
It's really sad.
Yeah. But Jane 23, who later becomes Pepper, sort of discovers that her world is fucked up a little bit early.
Yep. She's like 10.
Yeah,
she's like beginning 10. At the beginning of that part of the narrative.
And what happens is in the factory she's working in, there's an explosion and it blows out a wall.
Yep.
And she has never been outside.
Never even knew what outside was.
No, the factory was the only environment she knew. So she was like, I looked and there was a hole, and outside of the hole there was like a ceiling, but it wasn't the ceiling. And she's referring to the sky.
Yeah.
And,
which is a total crazy concept.
And these like robots that are kind of policing them, that they call them mothers.
Yeah.
Kind of try to keep them from even knowing what's going on out there.
Which is also really fucked up.
And then Pepper, aka Jane, and her bunkmate, Jane, 64, they sneak out of bed at night to go check out the hole.
Yeah.
And they get caught by a mother. 64 specifically gets caught.
Yeah.
And then she yells at Jane 23 to run. So she runs, but she has no idea where she's going. She's literally never been outside before. She doesn't own shoes. Like, she's just running.
Yeah. And then there's these dogs.
Yeah, and they're like
genetically
modified dogs, and they're chasing her, and they're hungry because all that's out in the outside here is just like a bunch of scrap. So they're chasing her, and then suddenly a voice comes out of the dark and it's just like, come in here. And it's an AI, plot twist, who's living in a ship that had been abandoned.
Yep.
And then that AI, who is named Owl, helps to raise Jane from age 10 into essentially adulthood. I think she's 19 when they finally leave the planet, because she convinces Jane to fix up the ship and fly the fuck away. And I think,
like, right too, because like,
and that is part of why Pepper gets so invested in Lovelace. She changes her name to Sidra.
Yeah.
Is because she's like, well, you're an AI, and Sidra's like, okay, but what difference does that make? And she's like, well, I was raised by one. Like, that's her family. She's one of the few people in this universe that sees AIs as individuals, because that's all she ever knew. That was the only person she talked to for almost
9
10 years.
Yeah. That's a lot. Also, can I just say, on a less serious note, but sort of a really serious note, but seriously a less serious note, she only ate 2 things for 9 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
I guess 3, because she had those, like, the bars.
Oh, yeah, that's
like
true,
the nutrition bars.
But for real, all she ate was, like, cooked dog, which, sorry, but also it makes sense.
They were nasty, too, and it was all they had. And also, like, these mushrooms that she found.
Yeah. And that sounds awful. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that once, let alone every day for 9 years.
And then she, like, they finally escape, and they end up on a different planet. And this is the most heartbreaking thing in the whole universe. They confiscate her ship with Owl in it.
Yep.
Because she's an AI, and she's part of the ship.
Yep. And they just do it because they're claiming some bureaucratic bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Because isn't it always bureaucratic bullshit?
It's always bureaucratic bullshit. But yeah, so then Jane starts trying to find the ship because she's like, that's my family.
Yep.
She can't, and she literally spends the next 20 years looking for the ship.
Yeah.
Like she finds it at the end. Spoilers. It's a delightful time.
And then, double spoilers, the AI that she was, like, helping to, I don't know, rehabilitate? Helping to grow.
Sidra.
Like, Sidra helps her find this ship.
And recover Owl, the AI that's on it.
Yeah.
And then they're all a big happy family at the end. But also, in the interim between escaping, losing her ship and her family, and the time with Sidra, Pepper becomes Pepper instead of Jane. She re-chooses her name, which is a common thing with modders in this universe, is they choose a name when their old name doesn't fit them anymore.
Which, honestly, I really loved because I feel like it reflects a lot of the trans community.
Yep, that's exactly how I had felt about it as well.
And, like, because a lot of people, like, when your name doesn't fit you anymore, you pick a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And I feel like Becky Chambers is really aware of that in her work in general.
One of my favorite things with this book specifically about that is, like, right at the beginning when Sidra is still Lovelace.
Mm-hmm.
And Pepper is like, you should probably pick a name because Lovelace, we're going to a planet with a lot of tech. People are going to recognize that Lovelace is an AI program. Sidra's like, could you give me a name? And Pepper's like, I don't feel comfortable with that. It's your name. You should choose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she is making a big, like, transformation in her own life.
Yeah.
And Pepper chose her name, and Blue chose his name. Mm-hmm. Because Blue's name was Lorian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and Pepper met him, like, while attempting to escape the other planet. He was, like, a guard at the factory.
Yeah. He comes into play right at the end of that part of that timeline.
Yeah, like at the end of the 20 years earlier narrative. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and I just love... So Pepper... And the reason Pepper chooses the name Pepper is because she had been eating only these two things for, like, 9 fucking years, which is disgusting. And the 10 years of her life prior to that, she was eating, like, liquid meals out of a cup, which is, like, ew.
Not great.
Not a fan. But she is on this ship when she and, at the time, Lorian, a.k.a. Blue, are escaping the planet that they had landed on. They get on this other ship. They offer to, like, sleep in the cargo hold because they just need to get somewhere else because she can't find her ship. And she's like, I just need to start a life.
Yep.
And then she's stuck on this, like, it's like a very bland, like, liquid diet kind of thing because she had been so malnourished that her stomach couldn't handle anything.
Yeah.
And she meets up with somebody else who works on the ship. And he's like, that's silly. You should try things. And he lets her try every spice
in the cabinet.
And the first one she tries is the first one she tries is like white pepper.
Yeah. And she's like, wow,
and
this
it like
is so great.
blows her mind.
Yeah. And that's what she chooses as her name. And that's awesome.
And I love that that's something that was important to her. And then later, when Sidra is, like, discovering things about the body kit, whenever she, like, tastes or smells new things, she can't actually taste or smell because she's an AI and the body kit doesn't have, like, taste buds.
Yeah.
But they do create these, like, random image files. Like, the person who created the body kit put them in there. So every time she smells or, like, eats something new, then she gets a random image file. And so she still gets to, like, experience, like, flavors. And when they first learn about that, Pepper's like, oh, we're going to have fun. And she orders the whole menu at one of her favorite takeout places. And they just bond over food together. And it's
so
the cutest
good.
shit in the whole world.
Oh, man.
And it's like I said, their stories are, like, kind of opposite, but they both come down to finding yourself and learning how to live your own life.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you were created for a specific purpose.
Yep. Yeah. And, like... It's beautiful and it's tragic and it's beautiful. And I know that feels slightly redundant, but when you read it, it makes a lot of sense because when you read it, just like Sam said, it's like it's parallel and it's opposite. And you read it and you're like, oh shit, and then you're reading it and as the timelines are kind of coming to a point when they kind of
intersect.
Yeah. It just all of your feels are just like
no, it's a really good, like, you can read it in a few different ways. The first time I read it, for me, it just really, I really connected with Sidra as a character, and I still do. Mm-hmm. She's very me-like in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. But her personal, like, journey to self-discovery and not feeling like she needs to accommodate everybody else all the time was something I really connected with. And I just read it as, like, a journey of somebody coming into their own. And so I had already really connected with it in that way. Mm-hmm. And then every time I've read it, there's been something else about it that has really resonated with me. And it's a really hopeful story. Mm-hmm. So you can read it as, like, a story of self-discovery from either character's perspective. And they're very different characters.
Yeah.
They're super different, but they're also super close friends, which is, like, super precious. But, so you can read it as a journey of self-discovery from either character's perspective. So, like, there's someone to connect with in here. Mm-hmm. You can read it as a story about friendship. You can read it as just a really hopeful story about what your life can be. Mm-hmm. You can read it as this, like, exploration of mind versus body and, like, what that means. You can read it as, like, what is the definition of a family, because every family unit in this is just very non-traditional.
Yeah.
You know, there's a question because of the AI thing about, like, what does it mean to be, like, human or, like, a person or, like, sentient? Yeah. Like, what makes someone worthy of rights? Mm-hmm. There's so much in it.
And what's interesting is that it's about an AI and about a world with AI characters, and you're still learning so much about humanity. Mm-hmm. That's kind of why I love Doctor Who. Side note is because it's about an alien who travels through space and time, but you learn a lot about humanity. Mm-hmm. But I saw that kind of vibe in this book is because you're learning about life, not just, like, human life, because there's, like, a lot of
life, like, intelligent life, I guess.
Yeah, because there's a lot of different alien races going on.
And it's, like, there's the whole AI, like, sentient model versus, like, a non-sentient, and, like, what's the difference and why is it more okay to, like, own one versus the other. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that could be read into to be more about, like, the trans community, stuff like trying to reconcile your mind and your body and their relationship with each other. So trying to feel like your body is yours, even though it's, like, kind of alien to you. Yep. It's the shortest book in the series.
That's a shame.
And, like, it packs a lot in there, and, like, also, like, there's a lot of emotional, like, it fucks you up.
Yes. Oh, I had so many feelings. And I was texting her the whole time I was reading, and I was like, the fuck is this? And, oh my god, and,
There's, like, a lot of talk in there, too, about, like, tattoos, and, like, how they can help you feel more at home in your body.
Side note, I remembered another tattoo that I wanted. Like, this week. Anyway.
But basically, what we're saying is, you should read it.
Yes.
I mean, like, you should read the whole series.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, if you stopped after the first one, like, you should probably read the second one.
I agree. Oh, I for sure agree. And if you're only, like, gonna read one...
It's my fave.
I feel like the first one does a really good job at setting up the world.
It does. I love the first one. I love all three of the ones in this series that I've read. Mm-hmm. I absolutely don't think any of them... Like, I think the third one I gave 4 stars, and that was my least favorite of the 3.
Okay. That's generous for you.
Mm-hmm. Like, I loved all of them. This one is just, like, if I could give it more than 5 stars. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But, like, it's so good.
Yeah, and, like...
Also, like, I'm doing this now, and I was worried I did it with you when we were talking. I'm, like, fucking maybe overselling it. But, like, I love it so much.
No, I was worried she was gonna oversell it for me. And I was like, oh man, yeah, it's your favorite. And it's going to really suck if I don't love it so much. But I did. I ended up loving it a lot. And I
went into it not expecting you to, because I was just like, I feel like book 2 being the favorite is not, it's the unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
Most people like book 1 the most.
It's more fun. It's funnier. Mm-hmm. It's kind of zany and carefree. even though it touches on serious things, but it doesn't really delve into serious things.
And the thing is, like, Becky Chambers is a character writer, but I think book 2 does a much deeper, like, character study, almost. Because you're only really dealing with the 2 main characters, and then, like, Blue and Owl.
Yeah.
As, like, side, and, like, Tack as, like, side characters. Who's a friend of Cidra's.
Yeah.
But you're mostly dealing with, like, Pepper's psyche and Cidra's psyche, and you really get to know them. The point is, read the Wayfarer series. Specifically, if you haven't, read the second book and let me know where it ranks for you among the series, because I'm curious, because I feel like, Amber is now a convert.
Yes.
But...
Oh, yeah, for sure. Here's the thing. I'm extremely curious about where it rates for you, but I feel like Sam is more invested in where you are.
I've read these books a lot of times. This one I've read 5 times. The other 2 I've read 4.
It's a lot of times to read. And I think the whole series is only like 5 years old.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a short period of time.
I think book 1 came out in like 2014 or something. But like, I think book 3 came out in like 2018, and I've still read it 4 times. Yeah. So.
Yep. And now are you just gonna like read the 4th book like 4 times in a row, or are you just gonna like?
It depends on how I feel about it.
Cycle through the
I'll probably cycle through the whole, like book 2 will always be in the lead for a number of times read. Yeah. That's just how it's gonna go down.
Yeah.
But
that's how it should go down.
But like, you know, it'll make its way around. I'm sure I'll read it more than once.
Oh yeah, I believe you.
But yeah. Anyway, we're just talking now.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know how you feel if you have read it. If you haven't read it, what are you doing? Stop watching this video. Go read the book.
Yeah.
And
are there any other books that if you've read the series, are there any other books that give you like vibes for the series?
And if you say Ancillary Justice, I will murder you.
I don't really have an opinion about that, so
I was told that because I liked this series, I would like that one, and I can assure you that is not true.
I would drink more, but I'm out. So.
But no, if you have read this, what are some series that give you some vibes? Like I said, I disagree on Ancillary Justice. I said it really aggressively, but it's mostly that I disagree.
I have a book that the description was giving me Close and Comet Orbit vibes.
Yeah, you mentioned that in a text, I think.
I don't know because I haven't read it yet. But like the description is giving me vibes.
Let us know if you're getting a vibe. Otherwise, let us know other books you think we should read.
Yeah.
We should stop talking at some point.
Yeah. So keep reading. Comment down below. We love your comments.
And whatever you do in life, remember to please read responsibly.
Read responsibly.
We could do that in unison probably better.
Yeah, I forgot what it was.